You have an hour, Maya, maybe two, if I'm feeling generous. My stepmother, Linda, stood in the doorway of my childhood bedroom. She was still wearing her black funeral dress, though she had already swapped her modest pearls for a diamond necklace that looked garish against the mourning attire. She held a box of heavy-duty contractor trash bags in one hand. She threw the box at my feet. It landed with a dull thwack on the carpet. "What is this?" I asked, my voice hoarse from 3 days of crying. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, holding a framed photo of my father. We had buried him 3 hours ago. The dirt was still fresh on his grave. "It's moving day," Linda announced, her voice bright and brittle, like cheap glass. "The funeral is over, the guests are gone, and now, the reality sets in. This is my house. I am the widow. I need space to grieve. And frankly, looking at your sad, mopey face is depressing me." She leaned against the doorframe, crossing her arms. "I've already called a locksmith. He'll be here at noon to change the tumblers. Anything you leave behind goes to the curb. Or the dump, depending on how much energy I have." I looked at the trash bags. Then I looked at her. "Dad wanted me to stay here," I whispered. "This is my home." "Was," Linda corrected, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "It was your home. Now, it's an asset. And I'm the owner. So, pack up your little art supplies, Maya. The free ride is over." She turned on her heel and walked away, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor, the floor my father refinished with his own hands. I didn't panic. I didn't scream. I reached into the nightstand drawer. I wasn't reaching for a tissue. I was reaching for a copy of the last will and testament that Linda thought she understood. She thought she was the queen of the castle. She didn't realize that she was living in a glass house, and she had just handed me a rock. To understand why my stepmother felt comfortable evicting me before my father's body was even cold, you have to understand the slow-motion car crash that was their marriage. My father, Thomas, was a brilliant architect but a lonely man. After my mom died, he was vulnerable. Enter Linda. She was 15 years younger, loud, and expensive. She met him at a charity gala and latched onto him like a barnacle. She brought along her son, my stepbrother Chase. Chase is 25, unemployed, and believes the world owes him a living because he exists. To Linda and Chase, I am the help. I am 29. I work as an archivist for a historic museum. To them, this means I am a dusty, boring librarian with no ambition and no money. They see my clothes, vintage wool skirts, simple blouses, sensible boots, and assume I shop at thrift stores out of necessity. They don't know that my dusty job involves authenticating historical documents for private collectors, and my consultation fees are astronomical. They don't know that I have a savings account that could buy this house twice over. I lived at home for the last 2 years. Not because I was broke, but because Dad was dying. Parkinson's. It was slow and brutal. Linda didn't want to be a nurse. She wanted to be a wife of leisure. "Oh, Maya," she would say, breezing out the door to go to brunch while Dad struggled to button his shirt. "You're so good with him. You have that patience. I'm just too empathetic. Seeing him like this breaks my heart too much to help. So, I did everything. I managed his meds. I drove him to appointments. I fed him when his hands shook too much to hold a fork. I was the daughter, the nurse, and the secretary. Linda was the spender. She remodeled the kitchen while Dad was in the hospital. She bought a new Mercedes the week he went into hospice. She isolated him. She tried to keep his friends away. She tried to keep me away from the finances. "Don't worry your pretty little head about the bills, Maya," she'd say, snatching the mail from my hands. "I'm his power of attorney. I handle the estate." She thought she was smart. But my father was smarter. 6 months ago, on a rare day when Linda was out getting Botox, Dad had a moment of absolute clarity. "Call Mr. Henderson," he whispered to me. "The lawyer. Now." We had a meeting right there in the living room. Dad knew Linda was greedy. He knew she would try to take everything and leave me with nothing. But he also knew that if he cut her out completely, she would sue the estate and tie it up in court for years, draining everything in legal fees. So, he created a trap, a very specific, very legal trap buried in the estate plan. He looked at me that day, his hand trembling in mine. "She loves the house more than she loves me," he said. She thinks it's her trophy. Let her think that. But you hold the leash. I never told her. I watched her preen. I watched her plan her life after he was gone. I watched Chase measure the walls of my bedroom, talking loudly about how he was going to turn it into a gaming lounge. I stayed silent. I played the role of the grieving, helpless daughter, because I knew the specific wording of Clause 14b, and I knew that Linda's greed would be the trigger that snapped the trap shut. The wake was held at the house. It was a grotesque display. Linda had catered it with champagne and caviar. Dad hated caviar. He liked barbecue. She wore a black dress that was cut too low and laughed too loudly with the neighbors, playing the role of the grieving widow while checking her reflection in the mirrors. Chase was worse. He was walking around the house with a beer in his hand, acting like he had just won the lottery. He cornered me in the kitchen while I was trying to make tea. "So, Maya," he smirked, leaning against the counter. "Rough day, huh?" "It's Dad's funeral, Chase," I said quietly. Yeah. Sad. But life goes on." He took a swig of beer. "Listen, I'm gonna need you to clear out the garage by the weekend. I'm buying a jet ski. I need the space." I looked at him. That garage is full of Dad's woodworking tools. His life's work. It's sawdust and junk. Chase shrugged. "Mom says it's all going to the dump. Unless you want to haul it away? Though, I doubt that little car of yours can tow a trailer." He laughed. "Actually, maybe you should sell the tools. You're gonna need the money for rent, right? Apartments in this town aren't cheap." I didn't answer. I just squeezed the tea bag until my knuckles turned white. "Excuse me," I said, pushing past him. "Hey," he called after me. "Don't be rude. It's my house now. Show some respect." I went upstairs to my room. I needed to breathe. That's when Linda came in. That brings us back to the trash bags. "You have an hour." After she threw the bags at me, the timeline accelerated. I didn't pack. I sat on my bed and waited. 30 minutes later, Linda stormed back in. She had a real estate agent with her, a woman named Brenda who looked like a shark in a blazer. "See?" Linda said, gesturing to my room. "This will be the second master suite. It has great light. We just need to get rid of the clutter." She pointed at me. Brenda looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Vance, the house isn't listed yet. And the daughter is still here. She's leaving," Linda snapped. "Right now." She looked at me. "Why aren't you packing?" "I told you. The locksmith is coming." "I'm not leaving, Linda," I said. I remained seated. I kept my voice calm, almost bored. "Excuse me," Linda's eyes bulged. "You are trespassing. The deed is in my name. The will left the house to me." "Did you read the whole will?" I asked. "I read the part that matters," she shouted. "I leave the marital home to my wife, Linda Vance. That's it. End of story. Now get out, or I am calling the police." "Call them," I said. Linda hesitated. She expected me to beg. She expected me to cry about having nowhere to go. She didn't expect me to challenge her. "You think I won't?" she hissed. "I think you should," I said. "It will make the paperwork easier." Linda pulled out her phone. Her fingers jabbed the screen aggressively. "Yes, 911. I have an intruder. A trespasser who refuses to leave my property. Yes, she's becoming hostile. I feel unsafe. Please send an officer." She hung up and smirked at me. "You wanted to play the hard way, Maya? Fine. You can leave in handcuffs. It'll be a great look for your library career." We waited. Chase came upstairs, alerted by the shouting. "What's going on?" he asked. "She won't leave," Linda said. "The cops are coming." "Seriously?" Chase laughed. "Wow, Maya. Desperate much? Just accept it. You lost." He started picking up items from my dresser, a jewelry box, a vase, and tossing them into the trash bag. "Stop touching my things, Chase," I said. "Or what?" he taunted. "It's my mom's house. Everything in it is hers." I stood up. I walked over to him. I took the bag from his hands and dumped it on the floor. "Don't touch my things," I repeated. Chase stepped back, surprised by the sudden steel in my voice. "Mom," he whined. "She's being aggressive." The doorbell rang. "That's them," Linda declared triumphantly. "Game over, Maya." She ran downstairs to let them in. I heard voices in the foyer. Heavy boots on the stairs. 2 police officers walked into my bedroom, followed by a smug Linda. "That's her," Linda pointed. "She refuses to vacate. I want her removed." The older officer, Sergeant Miller, looked at me. He looked tired. "Ma'am," he said to me, "the homeowner has asked you to leave. If you don't have a lease or a legal right to be here, you need to go." "I have a legal right," I said. "She has nothing," Linda screamed. "Show him the will." "I have it right here." She waved a stapled document in the officer's face. "Officer," I said calmly, "before you remove anyone, I suggest you look at the deed and the rider attached to the will." "I don't need to look at anything," Linda yelled. "It says life estate. That means it's mine for life." "Life estate," I repeated. I picked up the document from my nightstand. "You're right, Linda. Dad did leave you a life estate." I walked toward the officer. "But you should really read the fine print." I handed the document to Sergeant Miller. "Officer, please read Clause 14b, the conditions of tenancy." Miller adjusted his glasses. He looked at the paper. Linda rolled her eyes. "Oh God, what is this? Some loophole?" "It doesn't matter. It's my house." Miller started reading. His eyebrows went up. "Mrs. Vance," the officer said, looking at Linda, "this document says that the life estate granted to you is conditional." "Conditional on what?" Linda snapped. "On me paying the taxes? I know that." "No, ma'am," Miller said. "It says here, the life estate granted to Linda Vance shall remain valid only so long as the grantor's daughter, Maya Vance, maintains the right of unrestricted residency in the home." The room went silent. The only sound was the rain hitting the roof. Linda blinked. "What?" Miller continued reading. "Should the life tenant attempt to evict, bar, or otherwise impede the residency of Maya Vance, the life estate shall immediately terminate, and full ownership and possession shall revert to the remainder man. Maya Vance." Linda stared at him. She looked like she had been speaking a foreign language and suddenly forgot the words. That's not true," she whispered. "That's fake." "It's notarized, ma'am," Miller said. "It's filed with the county." I stepped forward. "Dad knew you, Linda," I said softly. "He knew you hated me. He knew that the second he was gone, you would try to throw me out." I looked at Chase, who was shrinking into the corner. "He wanted to make sure I always had a home. So he gave you a choice. You could live here for the rest of your life, rent-free, as long as you let me live here too." I gestured to the trash bags on the floor. "All you had to do was be decent. All you had to do was coexist." I turned to Linda. "But you couldn't do it. You couldn't wait 24 hours. You called the police. You created a documented record of an eviction attempt." Linda stammered. "I didn't mean it. I was just emotional." It was grief. "You hired a locksmith," I said. "You brought a realtor to the wake." I turned to the officer. "Sergeant Miller, by attempting to evict me, she has violated the condition of the life estate. According to this document, her tenancy is terminated immediately." Miller nodded slowly. "That seems to be the case, Miss Vance." He turned to Linda. "Ma'am, it appears you are no longer the homeowner. You are, well, you're a guest who has been asked to leave." Linda's face went purple. "No, this is a trick. You can't kick me out of my husband's house." "It's my house," I said. "It has been my house for 6 months. The trust transferred the title to me before he died. Your life estate was just a permission slip, and you just ripped it up." Chase stepped forward, trying to be tough. "You can't do this, Maya. We live here. We have rights. Squatters' rights." "You're not squatters," I said calmly. "You were licensees, and I am revoking your license." I looked at my watch. "The locksmith is coming at noon, right, Linda? That was your plan." Linda nodded dumbly. "Good," I said. "You can keep the appointment. I'll have him change the locks once you're outside." "Outside!" Linda shrieked. "It's pouring rain." "I know," I said. "But you have those trash bags you threw at me. They're waterproof. You can put your clothes in them." "Maya, please." Linda fell to her knees. It was a dramatic, pathetic gesture. "We're family. Where will we go? We sold my condo. We have nothing." "You have the Mercedes," I said. "The one you bought with Dad's money while he was in hospice." It has heated seats. You'll be comfortable. I'll sue you, she screamed, her face twisting into a mask of hate. I'll tie this up in probate for years. You can try, I said. But my lawyer is Mr. Henderson, the same man who drafted this will, and since I have an unlimited budget for legal fees thanks to my dusty library job, I think I'll be fine. I looked at the officer. Sergeant, I would like these trespassers removed from my property. They are making me feel unsafe. Miller looked at Linda. Ma'am, you need to go. Now. No. Linda lunged at me. You little witch, you planned this. Miller caught her arm before she could reach me. Ma'am, stop, or you'll be leaving in the back of my car. Chase grabbed his mother. Mom, stop! Let's just go! We'll fix this later. There is no fixing this, I said. I walked over to the dresser. I picked up the photo of my father. You wanted the house, Linda? You wanted the status. I looked around the room. You traded it all for the satisfaction of being cruel for 5 minutes. I hope it was worth it. The eviction was messy. Linda screamed the whole way down the stairs. She grabbed vases, knickknacks, anything she could carry. Put it down, the officer ordered. That is the property of the estate. She dropped a crystal bowl. It shattered on the foyer tiles. Oops, she spat. Chase tried to carry his gaming PC out, but he tripped on the rug, the one I had bought for Dad, and dropped it. I heard the crunch of expensive electronics. My rig, he wailed. Karma, I whispered. They stood on the front porch in the pouring rain. The locksmith pulled into the driveway at that exact moment. You called for a lock change, the locksmith asked, looking at the scene, the police car, the screaming woman, the trash bags. I did, Linda sobbed. Actually, I said, stepping onto the porch, I'm the owner. Please change the locks. And install deadbolts on the back doors too. Linda stared at me through the rain. Her makeup was running. Her hair was plastered to her face. I hate you, she hissed. I know, I said. But Dad loved me, and that was the only thing that mattered. I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. I turned around and looked at the empty hallway. It was quiet. The toxicity, the noise, the greed, it was all gone. I walked into the kitchen. I made myself a cup of tea. I sat in Dad's favorite chair. I cried. Not out of sadness, but out of relief. The fallout was absolute. Linda tried to challenge the clause in court. The judge dismissed it in 10 minutes. The wording was ironclad. She had to move into a cheap motel. Chase had to get a job at a warehouse to pay for their food. I heard she tried to sell the Mercedes, but it was a lease in Dad's name, so the bank repossessed it. I kept the house. I turned the garage, the one Chase wanted to clear out, into a woodworking studio, just like Dad always wanted. I kept his tools. I learned to use them. I still live here. It's peaceful now. Sometimes, I see a car slow down in front of the house, a cheap sedan. I see Linda in the passenger seat, looking at the garden, looking at the life she threw away. I don't wave. I don't hide. I just continue gardening. I learned a valuable lesson from my father. You can't force someone to be kind, but you can make sure their cruelty has a price. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't shouting. It's reading the fine print. If you enjoyed this story of legal justice and quiet victory, hit that like button and subscribe. And remember, before you try to kick someone out, make sure you know who actually owns the floor. See you in the next one.